What's up? It's Rashawn, the mindset architect, and I'm here. Listen, I'm so excited, you all, about this conversation. I'm here with my friend Sherry White. She is a mother, a wife, a woman of God, a teacher, a blogger, a writer. Listen, you all are in for a treat. I've been following her for years now, and I'm always impacted by her content and her transparency. And we're going to get into all that stuff. But first, help me welcome in my friend Sherry. Sherry, how are you doing?
Hi, good. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm blessed. We'll be blessed at the end of this conversation. I know it. So, hey, we'll share a little bit, but we're going to get into what it is that you do. But let me ask you, and just for those watching, we're right in the middle of a pandemic, the COVID-19 situation, and we're all the way into it, and we're right in the middle of it. And we had a quick prayer before our talk, and we're just thanking God for the technology, right? That we have the
Hi.
ability to still connect and still do ministry and still engage and still point back everything to Him. So that's what we're excited about. But I say that, Sherry, let us know how are things going with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how are you doing right now in these crazy times in which we're living?
We're doing good. I think we're like a lot of people. We're just staying at home best we can and taking it day by day. I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years, so working from home again and I know how crazy things can be.
Absolutely.
Um, I know how important it is to get into a routine, and because when you're at home all day, things can get crazy. So I've been getting the kids into a routine, and but it's been, we just take it day by day because um, when you think you don't want to think too far into the future because then you think of all the what ifs. So I just every day I just try not to think past it and think, okay, what are we going to do today? And I think it helps to know that we're all in this together, and that you're not alone in it. So
Not at all. And you know, I think through this. I try not to. To me, people are like, you're so positive. I'm like, no, no, no. I just know the power of negativity. So I'm always looking, I'm always shifting my perspective toward what is happening here. What can I control the controllables. And I always try to see the beauty amongst the chaos. And obviously, this COVID situation, it is crazy. But I'm choosing to look at the things that are beautiful in it. And I'm seeing something that you said. You said we're all in it together. I'm seeing incredible connection. I'm
yeah.
seeing connections amongst brothers and sisters and humanity. And when things go back to normal, I'm hoping that that does not go back to normal. I'm hoping that we can continue to be unified and connected. And, one thing that I've noticed in this COVID-19 thing, I've noticed that, you know, leaders, not just in faith, but just, leaders in government, just leaders in general, they have kind of torn through this perpetual kind of perfection, this veil of perfection, and they've been authentic. They've been transparent. They've been forthcoming. I believe God's going to get the glory out of this because I'm seeing our churches are sharing and they're online and they're being intimate and they're engaging with their followers and they're really
Amen.
showcasing Christ in a real way. And that brings me, I said transparency, I said authenticity. That brings me to what you do with the Messy Christian blog. Like, I'm just going to share. When I came across your blog a couple years ago, I'm a person who likes to be transparent and vulnerable and real. And when I came across your page, that's all I ever see. And I was immediately attracted to that. And I connect and engage with you immediately because it felt good. And we're seeing our leaders and we're seeing people be transparent and authentic in this season. But man, that's something that you've been doing. Would you mind sharing with folks who don't know about the Messy Christian? Would you mind sharing, hey, what that is and where in the world it came from?
Sure. Thank you for that. I've heard that a lot, and I really appreciate that because I try to be authentic and real. That's one of the reasons why I named my blog "The Messy Christian," is because I think when you're a Christian, there's this connotation that you're perfect, and I've kind of dealt with that my whole life with myself. Um, where there was a time where I thought that's what being a Christian meant. And so when growing up, I really thought, well, being a Christian meant you were perfect. And so, I have a testimony of all that. But when I was in my late 20s and God kind of called me back to him, one of the things he revealed to me was that I kind of had this lie of perfection. And so I kind of had believed this lie, and that had kept me from really being authentic with God and running to God with my problems. I tried to deal with them myself and do things out of my own strength. And so that was a big revelation for me. And I realized through that I there's so much freedom, in having a relationship with God. I don't have to pretend to be perfect. I don't have to pretend to be anything. And so when I did this blog, I really wanted that message to be, we are Christians. We're not perfect. Being a Christian is messy. God's not messy. He's perfect. His plans are perfect, but we are flawed. We are human. And so I really wanted people to understand that walking with God was filled with valleys and high moments and low moments, and sometimes 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And I really wanted people to know that that did not discount you, that God meets you where you're at. And so really that's been my heart. When I started this, I wanted just people to know God like I know God. And I wanted them to know, because for so long, I was one of those Christians who didn't get it. I mean, I just didn't get it. And because of that, I was very legalistic, and I had made my relationship with the Lord a checklist, and it was detached from the heart of the Lord. It was detached from his grace, and really it was prideful, because when you set out to be perfect, your eyes are on yourself. And there was this switch in me that God really revealed to me, that it was all about him and not about me. And most of my life, I've made my Christian walk about me. And when I started to make my walk about him, there was that, that relationship that before was a checklist. So
just nuggets. I hope y'all are catching this. Like, thank you for sharing that. You said a couple of things. First and foremost, if you watch any of my videos and you hear that, when you strive to be perfect, it becomes about you. If you hear that and I don't give you credit, sorry in advance. That was sorry.
You can go ahead and use it. You don't have to give me credit.
That's so good, because that is true. Like, we put this pressure on ourselves to be perfect, and it's like, hold on, God never intended for you to be perfect. That's why he sent the son to die on the cross, because he knew you weren't, and you were making it about you. But you said something. You said it's so freeing, right? Just to be transparent and vulnerable. And I think that's what your blog does. It gives people permission to be free in their walk with Christ. And you do such a good job of standing out front and showing your flaws and your shortcomings and how God has used those things to for his glory. And I absolutely love that. And you said that, when you first, started your walk with Christ, you were so legalistic that you had a checklist. I'm a little different in that, when I first got to know Christ, I'm just raw. Like, no one in my family went to church. I grew up, or we we didn't have any kind of rules or strict doctrine or religious experience. So I got to know Christ in a real raw way, and it was still completely different. And I oftentimes wonder, like, am I doing this right? And I would try early on to, like, fit in, and it didn't feel right. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it the way I feel like I'm doing it in my heart. And he's going to know he knows, listen, Christ knows your heart, and he knows my heart. And I'm just going to do it. I'm going to be raw and authentic. And that's why I lean into your blog so much. And I encourage anyone on here, man, woman, if you want to be moved, I want you to go check out The Messy Christian. But let's talk about the content, because you said it. You said, listen, I said, I'm going to give myself to Christ. I'm going to be transparent and vulnerable. How do you determine what you share on your blog? Because as I read through it, it resonates and it moves people. How do you determine, though, what you're going to share?
A lot of it is just I write. It's my own personal thoughts after, maybe I spent time in prayer, or I was at church during worship. I mean, so many times I'm in church and I've got my paper, like things just, or you're in the shower or you're in the car, and and you just think these things because they're already things that you're authentically thinking and experiencing with God, and I just want to share them. But I had a blogger friend one time who had this quote, and I love this quote, and this really helps me in my writing. And um, I don't know who said the quote, so I wish I could give credit, but it's I write for an audience of one and whoever he invites. And so every time I write something, I think about, I'm writing this for God and for whoever he invites. It's not about me. It's so easy, especially when you start to gain likes and followers, and it's so easy to make it about yourself. And when you make it about yourself, you get off mission. And so I just think I'm writing this for the Lord and whoever he invites. And it's going to resonate with some people. It may not with other people. I don't really write for um, a particular person. So, I mean, sometimes I do. Sometimes I think about who needs to hear this. But I write things that that showcase the character of God, the things that I would want to hear too, things that maybe I needed to hear that would have helped me.
Yeah.
But really, just anytime something, I jot things down. A lot of times, if I don't write in the moment, I lose it. So because it's so there that I'm like I want to say this. So that's kind of hard sometimes because sometimes the things I'm driving. That's when that's when a lot when I'm driving or I'm not near my computer or have a pad. I'm sure you feel that. I think anytime you're a writer or a creative, when that hits you, it's like if you don't do it then, it's like trying to iron with a cold iron. I read that somewhere, and it's so true. Like if you try to, you have to do it when the iron's hot,
Yep.
because you can lose a little bit of that initial, just passion for what you want to say and the moving of the spirit for what you want to say. And so,
Hmm.
really, I just try to keep a notebook with me and jot things down and just share what's on my heart.
It's so real though, and you touched on so many things, but I think what you said at the top of that, and you've done it a couple of times already, and you may not even notice. You keep pointing everything back to him. You keep saying it's not about me. Like when I write, it's not about me. You quoted writing for an audience of one and whoever God wants to invite. It constantly takes the pressure off of you. Like not being perfect, that takes the pressure off of you. Recognizing that it's not about me. This takes the pressure off of you. And I always wondered because when I share things, it's typically from my heart. It's in the spirit. And like you, it typically comes to me at the wildest times. I'll be in the gym and I'll spend 30 minutes in the gym typing or in my phone or in the car. I try not to do this while I'm driving. Like, Jesus, take the wheel. Hold on. This is or something. But I'll use the voice memo. But it's typically just randomly comes to me, and I'm like, I don't know who this is for, and I feel passionate about it. But I want to share. And you have such. And I asked you that because as I read through your blog, there's such a variety. There's stuff in there about marriage or your children or in your career, and there's also things about things that happen randomly while you were out or conversations you've had. So that's why I wondered, like, how do you know what to write about? And what you just said is the spirit.
Well, when I first started writing, I I wanted to write a blog, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I should be doing it or not. And so I prayed about it. And just to talk a little bit about, you know, finding your niche with things. I was running a moms group, and it was a faith-based moms group. So I was already coming up with content for that. And I felt I think when you start doing something like that, you feel, I've always wanted to write, but never wrote. I always say I'm a writer who never wrote. I always wanted to be a writer since I was in kindergarten, but I didn't really write anything. And so it kind of just developed out of that. And then, but I wasn't sure if I should be spending my time, was this going to be fruitful? And so I really prayed about it. I prayed about it for 6 months. And I just would be like, Lord, should I start this blog? Praying about it. And then one day I was at church and I was up front at the altar and I was praying about it. And, we often don't think about, for me, I don't often think about how's God going to answer this. I just pray. And usually when he does answer me, it's always startling to me because I never really thought about how it was going to happen. But I was praying about it and literally it was like hit me in the forehead, taste and see that the Lord is good. And I was like, is that a word for me? I said that back to the Lord. And as I said that, a woman on the other side of the church said it out loud. And I instantly, and I already knew it was a word for me, but I was so shocked that I said, is this a word for me? And so that was such a defining moment. Like, I'm going to start this blog. And I was so excited because I thought, God gave me this word. He wants me to do this. And I didn't even start for 6 more months because I was just like holding on to this word. Like, it was just like, it's, God wants me to do it. And then when I did it, I thought, okay, this is going to blow up because God has given me this word. And that is not what happened. I started the blog and I had 91 followers.
Say that again. Say that again. How many followers?
I had 91. I had 91 followers, and that was the way it was for months and months. And then after a year, I had 400, and it was a hard fought 400. And every day I wrote and wrote, and God had a lot of work out in me because He had given me this word, but I had to give this blog back to Him because for so long time I started making it about myself. And why isn't it growing? And I had to come to that place where I was like, this is for the Lord, and I am going to keep writing, and whoever sees it sees it. I had to take myself away from it. And so just to say to anybody out there, God has things to work out in us, and He is faithful, and His plans for you will come into fruition. But there are things that He is doing in you, and there was a lot He had to do in me. I mean, I can be prideful. I mean, I just laugh now because there were things I thought, man, this is going to go viral. This first thing I write. I mean, it's just so funny to me now. But once I got my head right, and I had to work through that, and then that wasn't the focus anymore. And God has grown this. That's why I say God has grown this following, and He prepared me to have a more of people following it. Because in the beginning, had I had all those people following my blog, it would have messed with my head. I would have thought, oh, I don't know if I want to write this. This might offend somebody, or I might not want to do this. And so through these, it's been, it'll be 4 years in June, that now I'm at a place where I can handle not worrying about what people think, and can write freely because God worked a lot out in me that I wouldn't have been ready for. And so I just want to share that because I think anytime somebody is, doing things for the Lord, and there's that part where you want to see that fruit of what He's doing, but it's what He's doing in you is the first thing. So I just wanted to share that.
I was thank you for that. I was hoping, I wasn't going to ask, I was hoping that you would talk a little bit about the process, because, it's easy to look at your following and say, oh, that's what I want. But I've said before, it's almost human nature. We want the fruit on the same day that we planted the seed.
Yeah.
And God is trying to do something in you. He was trying to develop you. Had He given you the fruit, maybe you weren't even healthy or mature enough to digest it the right way and be fruitful with it. Because it's all about being fruitful. And I love it because you have a great following. But and I'm glad you said that, because there's people who are writing, there's people who are making videos, there's people who are trying to progress, and they're getting frustrated with the number that
Yes.
they're seeing. And I love that what you just said, challenge them to say, hey, it's not about you. What's God trying to do before he does something through you? So
Yes.
that is so powerful.
Well, because I understand what it feels like to put all your heart and soul into something and wonder what's going on. And that's when we just have to give it back to him and say, this isn't about me. I've made it about me. It's a lot of humbling. There's a lot of humbling that the Lord has to do to us
Yeah.
for us to even be used by him a little bit. I
Mm,
mean, there's so much humbling that has to happen. And
mm, mm.
and but I know the frustration. There was, when I first started the blog, I would get mad if there were certain friends or family that weren't sharing or supporting. It's so funny to me now because it's not even about them. And it was like I had made it all about me and all these things. And so I just want to share that because um, I get a lot of people ask me, oh, how did you start your blog? Or I'd love to start a blog. And I just wanted people to know, anytime you're stepping out and doing something, a dream or a desire to do something, that it's a journey, and that the quicker we just put our eyes back on God and get them off ourselves and just say, I'm in this for him, for one person or a million people, it's about him. And once we do that, we actually, I think, get back on mission, and you will see the Lord being able to use it.
Man, that's so good. I mean, just so much content. Like I could literally talk to you for an hour just about the process, right? Because it's so powerful. And I love your perspective in that you can see it. Yeah, in hindsight, it's easy, but as you're walking through it, sometimes it's challenging. And that's why
Yeah.
I hope that what you just shared resonates with people who are walking through something similar right now. So look, I'm going to be mindful of your time. I have a question for you. I want to know just quickly, for the people who follow you, or the people who will certainly follow you after this talk, what's something that you haven't written about, or what's something like a random fact that might be fun about you that no one knows yet?
Well, I'm pretty open on my blog, but I mean, people might not know that, I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years. I'm a teacher, teach third grade. Um, I'm a creative person. I make earrings and rings, and I like to always be doing things. And I'm actually, you know, I've been trying to write a book for a couple years. So I know you just wrote your book, and so I have a similar dream. There's books I want to write, and so I'm hoping that during this time, like you said, looking at the positive things with what's going on, that I can kind of start the process of sending things out and getting that. So that's kind of a dream of mine. I've wanted to write a book, write about my testimony, like I was sharing with you, um, and that.
Listen, your book is going to be phenomenal. Like if it's already done. You said it's already in you. You said you wanted to write from the time you were in like first grade, and it just took you some time. Like your book is there. First and foremost, I can't wait for it to come out. I'll definitely be a supporter, and the world will benefit from your book. So,
Thank you.
it really will. So, all right, this is my last thing. Let's say we're living in crazy times. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We have faith that God's leading us through it, which I believe that he is. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, that tomorrow there's no more social media, there's no more technology, there's no more phones, and anyone that has ever followed your page will not be able to go back to your blog. But let's say they've interacted over the years. What's one thing? I know it's a tough question. What's one thing that you would have liked for them to have learned to apply to their lives going forward if they could never go back and look at your blog again?
Wow. Well, I would probably share a scripture with you on that. I'd want them to know that they can, that that when they fall, they need to run hard and fast to the cross. I mean, that would be my biggest thing to anybody, is that um, get up and run to the cross. I mean, don't try to do things out of your own strength. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. I mean, these are all words until you work them out. I mean, one of my biggest things I want people to know is that God's word is living, and you can literally apply it to your life. I mean, it is instruction for your life. And if you know, God says, focus on me and I'll make your way straight. Put me first. I mean, that right there, these are not just words that make you feel good. This is literal truth. And if you apply it to your life, you will see the fruit. You will see, you can have a real relationship with the Lord. And you can, it is so, I mean, and then you know that there's nothing sweeter. There's nothing sweeter to be alone in your car, to have your head on the pillow at night, to walk into a hospital room and see a loved one dying. Nowhere you are always, he's always with you. You're never alone. He bends his ear to you. To if we really knew and lived like that, and know, that is what I would want people to know, that you can have that real relationship with the creator of the earth, and that he is the God that sees you. That is what I would, and that is one of the messages that I hope they get over and over again, because that's really something I feel like constantly. I just want people to know that this is real. This is not just good time, feel good, words. This is like literal truth. And you can, God is real, and his son wants a relationship with you, and you can have that on your own with him, and it will change your world. So
Listen, if you all need convinced to follow her after this, I don't know what you're waiting for.
You're too kind.
You shouldn't need convinced. You see why you should already be following her? Listen, thank you so much, Sherry. It's been a blessing. Just quickly let folks know, if they don't follow you, let us know where we can connect with you, where we can follow you, and just let us know.
Well, I'm on Facebook for The Messy Christian, and I have my blog address is on there, so you can find me there. And I'm on Instagram. I try to do that, but it's hard. Now that I'm back to teaching, it's been a challenge. It has been a challenge because I'm not the stay-at-home mom anymore. And so it's been a challenge, but I'd love for you to follow along and reach out, and I'd love to have you. And thank you for having me on here. And I've been following you too. And I can't wait to share this with all the people on my page, so that they can follow you. I love the passion and energy you bring, and you're very inspiring. I know you are a motivational coach and a great man of faith, and so I hope that the people who see this on my page would follow yours as well.
Just a giver. Like, she turns this around and compliments me. Thank you. I'm inspired, and I'm honored to have you on. Anyone that follows me, I know they're blessed because of this. So thank you. You all, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.